And good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Just in case you need to be reminded, today is July 11. It's a Thursday morning and it's a beautiful weather here in Lagos. I'm sure it is on your side as well, Kayla. But let's go quickly to Niger State. That's where we're taking you this morning. It's one of those sports that we understand that have been ready for many years now, quite a number of years now, 4 years so far if memory serves me right. And we understand that Barrow Empire Hills is what you're looking at now. Can you imagine in Niger State, we have this water, beautiful sight. Okay, well, it's not too far from River Niger, River Benue, but the fact that there is somewhere around this is a port, right? It's a port, and it is one that can also be concessioned for use. Well, we understand that the federal government at some time, I think this is about 2 years ago, said they have commenced processes to concession the Barrow port, which you're looking at right here. But that's not really what I'm looking at. Maybe I'm always looking at the money, forgive me. But hey, the fact that this is there, the Barrow Empire Hills, has a history behind it. Kayla, you want to take us through that history? Suffice to say that this beautiful place that you're looking at now is it was actually commissioned way back in time, even before Nigeria's independence. Lord Lugard Empire is also called at some point. It's about 150 feet above ground level, and guess what? It's one of the 100 or more tourist sites that Niger State has identified. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the federal government regards it as a multi-billion naira inland port, which was commissioned in 2019 amidst a lot of fanfare. But guess what? 5 years after, the port remains non-operational. Many are wondering what exactly is going on here. But just please enjoy the view. This is beautiful Nigeria. I could just call this whatever we want to call it. It's beautiful Nigeria, a beautiful sight for you to behold, and it's something that's just not going to go away. Well, from here, let's go straight into what the papers are saying today.
Some of the papers this morning leads with an EndSARS story. The Nigerian Tribune, EndSARS, ECOWAS court finds FG guilty of rights violations. Story is on page 12. And at the bottom of the page, you see LG Autonomy Supreme Court delivers judgment today. If you also check the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper, EndSARS protest, ECOWAS court slams FG, finds it guilty of rights violations. Details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. The front page of the Daily Times newspaper has the same story, EndSARS protest. ECOWAS court finds FG guilty of rights violations. No violation of right to life, court rules. Awards fine of 2 million naira each against FG in favor of the applicants. The rest of the story you'll find on page 2 of the paper this morning. Up next is food-related stories. Vanguard newspaper leads with will regulate price of imported foodstuff. FG stories on page 5. And if you look at the right, it says food prices to crash in 180 days. The country president to advise him on food crisis, according to Ndume. Laments even ministers cannot see him. Notes Nigerians like Sudanese dying of hunger. Insists children in Northwest malnourished. Front page of Business Day has farmer security cost piles pressure on food prices. Details of that story you find on the front page. It continues on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Look at the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. Conflicting judgments. No going back on sanction for erring judges, says CGN. Stories on page 4. At the bottom of the page, NSAS. Guilty as charged. ECOWAS court indict Nigeria over human rights violation. Front page of the Daily Trust newspaper has bread beyond reach. Citizens lament. Bakeries shut down due to rising cost of production. Nigerians seek relatively cheaper foods. Government must act now. Master bakers. The details of that story you find on page 4 of Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The Nigerian News Direct has this one on its front page. Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, why we awarded project without fake approval, according to Dapo Abiodun. Laments bureaucratic bottlenecks, alleges coordinated media attacks. That story is on page 3 of the paper this morning. The front page of Leadership newspaper, fresh tension in reps. 150 first-time members move against House leadership. Stories on page 4. Protest marginalization, exclusion, seek rejig of committees. It's a normal parliamentary process, according to House spokesman. The Guardian newspaper this morning says, abuse, violation of urban planning laws breed homelessness, slums. That story is on page 6. You see some infographics on the front page. At an urban growth rate of 4.3% yearly, Kano, Ibadan, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kaduna, Onitsha, and Benin City, among others, are projected to become bigger till 2030. And a few other infographics on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. These are some of the papers we have for you today.
Well, those are the papers that we have this morning, and quite a lot of things going on as well. There's lots of infrastructure talk. Well, of course, everyone has been buzzing about this NSAS story since yesterday. The ECOWAS court finding the federal government guilty. We're seeing that from the Guardian newspaper this morning. More on that from page 4. And it's a very interesting dynamic. One that, it's kudos to the people who held on and stood through this entire process. If you want to get all the details of what the ECOWAS court has said, you can go to page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. But what does this mean? What happens afterwards? NSAS was pivotal in our nation's history, and one that really at least opened the eyes of the elite to the fact that, look, we have a generation of young people who do not feel governed, who do not feel wanted, who do not feel loved by their country, and haven't exactly experienced good governance. That was one of the major fallouts of the NSAS. But have there been lessons learned from there? Are we seeing a government that is more accountable to young people? But that's a whole conversation for another time. If you want to get more on that, you can actually go to the Guardian newspaper, get more on that from page 4. But also on the Guardian newspaper this morning, abuse, violation of urban planning laws breed homelessness and slums. We're seeing that on page 6 also of the Guardian newspaper. And at an urban growth rate of over 4.3% yearly, Kano, Ibadan, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Kaduna, Onitsha, and Benin City, among others, are projected to become bigger till 2030. This is a given. But what's being done to ensure that this increase in population is catered for? A lot of infrastructure has to go into catering for this expansion that we're seeing in these cities. And with the youth population that is growing so much, a lot needs to be done. So governors, especially governors at the state level, have the onus on them to prepare for this. Don't just do your term and think, I'm just going to do my 4 years or 8 years and just leave the place. You have to prepare for the future. Leave legacy projects, things that will be able to help the future generation. If you're not doing that, I don't know what you're doing, and you probably shouldn't be sitting on that chair. Ayo, what do you think? And what's standing out for you in the papers this morning?
I cannot but queue with you on that issue, on the issues that you have raised this morning, because at the end of the day, it's all about the people, all about the people. But what stands out for me this morning is on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper and the Vanguard newspaper. Two newspapers drawing attention to two very important staples in the lives of Nigerians. Look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, for instance. Bread beyond reach. Citizens lament. That's what you have on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. We also hear that bakeries are shutting down due to high cost of production. I think as far back as some 10 or so years ago, maybe almost or about 10 years ago, I knew a baker who said, as far back as that time, he'd been substituting some imported production materials for locally sourced ones. And for him, it was working. It helped him to innovate, so to speak. But now that we are reading this, and a good number of people would remember how they grew up, how important bread was, especially now that you literally have to eat healthy. And now, I mean, the reason why some people are restricting themselves to certain kinds of bread, certain bread diets, or some are even doing away with bread altogether, is because they are not sure how it will affect their bodies. And there are those who are saying, look, we can eat bread, but we have to remove certain things from them. And those conversations are still there. But now that we hear this, that the cost of production is increasing, and the people are shouting, most certainly something. And guess what? The last of the riders is by master bakers saying that the government must do something as soon as possible. In fact, they said government must act now. And I want to hope that government is listening. Related to that is on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. And it is saying that the federal government is promising to regulate the price of imported foodstuff. And that's, I don't know if we want to say that is cheering, but there are fears. The fears are still there that if imported food come into the country, local manufacturers may be getting the wrong end of the stick. How that will go, I guess we just have to hold the federal government to its promise. But look at one of the riders, food prices to crash in 180 days. There are those who would say we heard that before, because as far back as the Second Republic, the second term of the Second Republic, we heard that even the first term, the government of the day had begun to talk about austerity measures. Today, what are we going to call what we have on our hands now? Now, if people cannot live, cannot feed well, food is the #1 need of any human being. Back in 2022, or was it I think it was 2022, we were talking about multidimensional poverty of up to 130 million Nigerians, 133 million Nigerians, and here we're talking about the scarcity of foodstuff. It's definitely something that is very, very concerning. Oh, I don't know what you think, Kayla. Meantime, if you want, you can also take us through some of the issues happening today.
Indeed, we have quite a number of things happening today in the nation's capital. And, well, it's been going on for a few days. The courts have been very busy. So we'll start off with the very first thing happening today, and it's got to do with this judgment that we're expecting today from the Supreme Court. And this judgment has to do with the autonomy of local governments. That's the first thing happening today. I think we're taking that live. We're trying to see if we can hook up with our correspondent at the courts, just so we can get the details. But we're trying. We'll see if we can get it through. But happening today, that one there from the Supreme Court, delivering judgments on local government autonomy. And then also in the nation's capital today, there's going to be a signing for CNG conversion centers. That will be holding at the PCNGI office. So we're looking at the MOU signing for these conversions. We've been talking about CNG for a while, talking about what it's going to do for your cars, how it's supposed to be an alternative source of energy for us, how we can save some money, and of course live up to, well, the expectations when it comes to energy using. So the MOU for the conversion centers are going to be signed today as well in the nation's capital. And, we're preparing for something it's all over Africa. Africa's Anti-Corruption Day is being prepared for. And today we're hearing that the EFCC chairman is going to be leading a walk to mark Africa's Anti-Corruption Day. Corruption has been described as the bane of our existence, one of the biggest problems we're facing in this part of the world. So the EFCC chairman will be leading that walk to mark Africa's Anti-Corruption Day. Channels correspondents, of course, will be on ground to get you the details of that. And while we're talking corruption, the UNODC will be launching its national survey on corruption. That's happening at the Hilton today, by the way. So what have we done? How have we fared? Is there a war against corruption that is actually producing results, or is it just talk? Is it getting better, or is it getting worse? Those are some of the major stories that we have happening today, right here in the nation's capital. Ayo.
Well, you don't also forget that the president, there's a plan by the president to meet with Labour this morning on that vexed topic of minimum wage. That also is coming on later on today. In the meantime, don't forget that Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Yes, that's it right there. What time? I guess, of course, as Kayla would always tell you, Channels Television will be bringing you all the details. Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, we'll be talking about understanding United States Power Africa Initiative. It's a U.S. government-led partnership with Africa, and I hear that Africa is the new bride. Okay. Who's conducting the wedding? I guess we'll wait to see. Well, but that's happening, as I said, on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily later on at 10 o'clock. Meanwhile, let's take a short break. When we return, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty. Don't go anywhere.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bowl Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bowl Rice, tasty rice, nourished you. We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bowl Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bowl Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
Navigating a challenging business landscape requires revitalizing your organization for sustainable success. Join Texam, UK's Professor Paul Griffith, the world's first professor of management, to lead a rocket launch at the Wheatbaker Hotel, Ikoyi, Lagos, from 17th to 18th July 2024 for a transformative 2-day session. This immersive Texam program, priced at 3,412,500 Naira after a discount, empowers senior executives with actionable insights for profitable growth. Leveraging interactive games, group discussions, and role play, Texam's proven methodology will elevate your strategic decision-making skills. Don't miss this opportunity to inspire competitive advantage and thrive sustainably amid economic uncertainty. Register now at www.texam.co.uk or call +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
Contested senatorial elections, they try to use those kind of distractions, and the Supreme Court gave judgment, and they were still doing what they were doing. But now, having learned from that lesson, we can no longer be distracted. We stay focused, we keep our eyes on the election, we continue to reach out to our people, and the people will come out massively and vote. Nobody will turn the votes of the people against anybody. We are seeing people who are not campaigning, they are telling you federal might, federal might. Tinubu is a Democrat. Tinubu is a product of the struggle for democracy. Tinubu was a member of NADECO. Tinubu was the only governor in the Southwest. When everybody crossed from AD to PDP, he stood where he was because he believed that the principles of democracy will work in Nigeria. And it has worked and it has made him president. Tinubu will never truncate the will of the people. And the will of Edo people is what is going to determine who is the next governor of Edo State. Let everybody go and sell their candidates to Edo State, to Edo people. For now, we know and we are rest assured that our candidate is the best product for Edo people, and Edo people have accepted our candidate. What you have just seen today is just small.
All right, so we will be having that conversation this morning. We have two people to talk about it, but we'll start with our Zoom guest. And of course, we are looking at the suspension of someone from the PDP, Mr. Dan Obir, the National Vice Chairman, National Working Committee, for his alleged involvement in sabotaging the chances of the PDP in the Edo governorship race. So we're going to start off that conversation right now with Matthew. Mr. Matthew, I'm not going to try to pronounce your surname. It is one of the most difficult names. Maybe you could help us out. How do we pronounce this name that has all the alphabets in it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, my name is not a difficult surname to pronounce.
Okay, let's hear it.
My surname is okay. My surname is Idwoyekene. It's a proper Benin name.
Idwoyekene. Well, it's good to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us this one. He's the Director General of the Aswe Oge PDP Campaign Management Council, and he's joining us from Benin. So let's have a conversation about this. What's really going on? What is the status of things with the PDP right now, with the court judgments, with this suspension? What's the status of things if we're looking at the elections come September?
Well, as a party and as a campaign organization, we continue to keep our eyes focused on the election, and we continue to sell our candidates to our people so that Edo people will know who they are voting for. On the issue of the court judgment, I think the lawyers are handling that. That is not an area that I want to talk about, but I know for sure that the judiciary will do the right thing at the appropriate time, and it's not in any way distracting us, because there's no way in that judgment that says that we don't have a candidate, for instance, or the judgment does not in any way affect our candidate. And our candidate was not even a party to the suit that they were talking about. If you watched 2 days ago, that's why we had to make our candidate see Edo people, let Edo people see the person who they should vote for in the next election. We just did that walk around Ring Road in Benin City to assure them that our campaign is not in any way distracted. You know, when people have no product to sell, nothing to sell, they continue to look for unconventional tactics and ways to distract the campaign. They fly different kinds of to tell you, initially you hear, they say, oh, our candidate cannot speak Isha. Is he a son we are going to speak? We are going to speak to.
All right. Well, let's talk. Mr. Matthew, sorry, let's get in on other issues, because him speaking Isha or not is not the problem here. For many people, that judgment that we heard had invalidated. For many people, all right, you can correct us and explain. For many people, that court judgment had invalidated the primaries that brought your candidate into this governorship race. And for many people, they may be worried that, you know, let's not have a situation. Oh, no, I think we lost that connection to him. We'll try and see if we can get that connection back shortly, because we do need to get the details on it. And Ayo, you know, we've been having this conversation about Edo State.
Where are people?
Okay, he's back. Mr. Matthew, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let's be able to situate this question properly. Can you hear us?
I'm not hearing you.
All right. Now, we're talking about that judgment, and many people believing that the judgment of that court invalidates the primaries.
I'm not hearing you, please.
Mr. Matthew, can you hear us?
Okay, now I can hear you now.
All right. Now, we're saying that many people believe that that court judgment has invalidated the primaries that brought your candidate into this race. And some people may be worried that come September, this might be something that may affect the PDP's chances in the elections. What do you make of that assertion?
There is no court judgment invalidating the candidacy of our candidate. First, our candidate was not a party to the suit in any way. It was some persons who went to court on the 19th of February who said the court and the court should direct that it should be included among the delegates that were to vote in the primaries which took place on the 22nd of February. Mind you, the primaries have been concluded. This is July. So if a judge is giving judgment and he says that include these persons in the primaries that were to take place on the 22nd of February in July, well, we have the legal team. They are handling it. Every judgment, no matter how you look at it, if you do not agree with it, you take it to the next level, which is the Court of Appeal, which our people have gone. But I can tell you one thing, especially clear, there is nowhere in that judgment where any statement was made, either nullifying the candidacy of Asue Ighodalo or cancelling the primaries of the PDP. The PDP is the most well-structured party in this country, and we all know it. The PDP, in conducting her primaries, followed the due process of doing the primaries in Edo State. The people who came to conduct the delegate congresses were sent from the national. They took the names of the delegates that emerged back. The list of the delegates, the proper delegates to do the primaries, were sent back to the state. And those delegates went to Obesedo, they were accredited, and they voted, where our candidates scored over 500 votes in that place. So these people who went to court and wanted to use the instrumentality of court to say, court, direct the party to make us delegates. I think they were unfortunate because as at the time they went to court, before the judgment is given, the primaries had been concluded. Names have been sent to INEC, and our candidate campaigns have been lifted, and our candidate is already campaigning. So like I said, I leave that to the lawyers to handle, and I know that they will do justice to that. There is no court judgment anywhere that says that the candidacy of the PDP candidate is invalidated or nullified, or to say that the primaries of PDP was nullified. There is nothing like that in any judgment anywhere in this country.
Okay, so that's an interesting take. We do have to, manage our time properly. Let's talk about the suspension of Dan Obir, that's the National Vice Chairman of the PDP National Working Committee. And they're saying sabotaging the party's efforts in Edo State and some utterances that he had made. What happened here? And what impact would this have on the unity of your party as you go into these elections?
Well, I will tell you this for free, that Danobi before today and his group have not been working with the PDP. In my election, I ran the last election as a candidate of the PDP for the Edo South Senatorial office. They worked with the APC. They directed their persons to vote for the APC. And since that time, for as long as they felt that their own preferred candidate never emerged, just what they tried to do in my election is what they are trying to do now. What they're doing is that they are trying to get people or their followers to start dropping letters to say they are resigning from PDP. But we are not bothered, because the people that they say they are resigning, they have since left the PDP. Rather, the opposite is the case, because PDP is the party that is harvesting members on a daily basis, from the Labour Party, from ABGA, from the APC. And you find out that the people that are being harvested into our party are people that have electoral value, people that are electoral assets to the parties that they are coming in from. So the disciplinary action being meted on Danobi is an action that has been long overdue. I just felt that the party at some point, I didn't know why it took them so long to know that all this is that we have been saying, that these people are not part of the PDP progress in Edo State. Not just him. They have their team, they call themselves, they say they are PDP legacy group. And I keep telling them, there's no party, no legacy group in Nigeria.
All right, I'm going to have to toss you to my colleague in Lagos. Yeah, because the internal conflict in your parties, especially in Edo State in the run-up to these elections? It's one that a lot of us are very worried about. Ayo?
Well, exactly where my first question will come from, Kayla, because naturally it'll be said by you, as have been said by several other people, when political parties are having internal crises, that they have internal party mechanisms to resolve these issues. But when it blows out of proportion, when it comes into public sphere, such as we're talking about it now, it definitely does call for concern, particularly, Mr. Edronia, because on the one hand, PDP is the lead, how you want to take it or leave it, is the lead opposition party, but it would look like, it would seem like because the party is dealing with its own internal crisis, it's unable to focus on the job, quote and unquote, of being a political opposition party to champion the cause of better governance in the country.
Well, I will take it this way. Like I said earlier on, the PDP is the most structured party in Nigeria. The PDP has its own internal organs for conflict resolution. But in a situation where you find some persons who just feel that if what I want to not get to me, we must bring down the party. They refuse to avail themselves of the opportunities provided by the party constitution to resolve whatever conflict that may have arisen. And they feel that all they can do is to tear the house, bring down the roof. But there are very sane people in PDP. We do not believe that we should fight dirty. That is why till now we continue to extend our own hands of fellowship to them. But when they on their own become recalcitrant and they refuse to leave being disgruntled, and they are already on a mission that I'll call a mission of political self-destruction, what can we do? We can only but focus on the assignment before us. And the assignment before us for now in Edo State is winning the governorship election on the 21st of September.
So along that line.
So when we are now talking about those persons,
yeah,
there is the freedom of choice, and there's the freedom of association. My take is that if you don't want to remain in the party, how do you want to stay inside the party and try to destroy the party?
Well, you know, one other issue that is there, Mr. Idori, is that if you say that the party has functional and effective internal crisis mechanisms, how come it blew out of proportion? Don't forget, it is well known that the internal party, crisis in the PDP dates back before the primaries in the party in the state. And what we are having now, there are those who would say it's because those issues have not been resolved. And how many months do we have to the election? So, and we all know that a house or a party divided against itself cannot stand. You don't think that this situation, this internal crisis, lingering internal crisis in the party, has the capacity to affect the chances of the PDP in the elections ahead?
No. The people that we are talking about, they do not have any capacity to affect the party negatively in the next election in any way. Reason is that before now, they've left the party. They've just been in the party bodily like we are PDP members, but they've since been working with the opposition. So what they are doing now, when they say they are resigning, they are now officially doing, carrying out an action that they have completed.
It's interesting that you say it that way, sir, because on the one hand, on the one hand, you said that the PDP is harvesting members on a daily basis. On the other hand, you are now saying that you are not afraid to lose some people in the same party that you say is harvesting members. So it will call to question whether or not the people who you say are coming in will even stay. If this is the way, some might be reasoning that if this is the way you treat the people who have been in the party for a while, what's the assurance that I even have any chance of staying any longer?
Well, I want to make this clear to you. People that you say they've been in the party for a while, you've made all entreaties to them. You've done everything possible to reconcile with them. And they make themselves unaccessible. They refuse reconciliation. In that situation, what do?
Well, isn't that to say that there is communication breakdown? Because, I mean, there are those who will be wondering, look, if there is no communication breakdown and the interests are the same for the PDP to remain relevant in Edo State, how come this is happening? Or are you saying that there are some overtures made to them by other political parties and consequently for which reason they want to frustrate your party?
I think you just hit the nail on the head.
I'm just asking a question.
These persons, we know them, that they're already working with the other political parties. And in recent times, they are only now trying to perfect their joining those other political parties. And members of the party have seen their actions. And then for some of them, they've gone ahead to take steps to try to bring them in. But since they refused, and they now see them that they try to become destructive, they now took the proper legal steps to show them the way out of the party. I will tell you this, even Jesus Christ said it in the Bible, that if one of your hands will cause you to sin and send you to hell, it is better you cut off that hand and enter heaven without that one hand than for all your body to go into hell. So if these ones will make us lose election in Edo State, when we keep them inside and we do not trust what they are doing, when they are working internally against the party, it is better we show them the way out. Let them go and stay where they are. Let those people appreciate them. But I can tell you this for free. Those people can never trust them because those people will also know that the same way they were working and doing anti-party when they were in PDP, a man who was working against his party to make you succeed, you can never trust that man because that same man, in being with you, will continue to remain unstable because at the slightest opportunity, he will also sell you out. So these ones have got nothing to do with the elections. And those people appreciate the candidacy of Aswe Ighodalo. And Edo State is a PDP state. And every PDP person in Edo State, you will find out that even PDP members who before now have stayed quiet, who have not been playing politics for a long time, they've all come out now because they have seen that they have a candidate that they know will take not just Edo State to the next level of progress, but also be able to unite PDP and keep PDP together as a party that will be able to confront any kind of challenges that may arise in the future.
So if you say that PDP, Edo State is a PDP state, and the previous government before this one was an APC state, in fact, the current governor came in the first time, on the ticket of a party different from what it is now. What do you want Nigerians to believe now?
Well, you will also know that from 1999 to 2007, this state was a PDP state. I was in the House of Assembly for 8 years in this state until Adams Ali Oshomole became the governor of the state through a court judgment, and he became the governor, and he was able to sustain his party in government. But internal crisis in the party, divine providence brought the power back to PDP. And as we speak today, the government in Edo State, the working government in Edo State, is a PDP government. Therefore, it would be right for me to say at every point in time that PDP is a party for Edo State, and Edo State is a PDP state. And we are not going to lose it to any other party.
Well, I guess the coming months will say better.
That's where we have to wrap it up. Mr. Matthew, who's the Director General, Aswe Oge, PDP Campaign Management Council, join us via Zoom in Benin. Good luck with your party and all the things that you have to do ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversations in Edo with the House of Assembly members. Stay with us. Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew there giving us his perspective on things, but now we're trying to get someone else's perspectives. And we have Mr. Washington Osifo, former member, Edo State House of Assembly, joining us right here in the studios. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Washington.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right,
Good
so
morning,
you heard a lot of things that he had to say this morning.
Yes, I did.
And you were tapping the table, shaking your legs. What are your thoughts?
You know, because I think I respect him, well-respected fellow son of Edo, but he shot himself and almost missed it, and perhaps opened the vista for Edo people to see. Now, you cannot say when you have crisis in your party, it will not affect you, especially when you owned up in one breath that you, whereas in the largest senatorial district of Edo State, as it were the Edo South, you were the ticket holder for the PDP in the last senatorial election. And because you had that crisis, you said that was exactly what they did. You know, these groups, you know, of PDP who worked against you, and that was how you failed and you lost. Now, how do you now reconcile it? That when you didn't reconcile the irreconcilable differences that led to you losing that election in the largest part of the political space of Edo, which is Edo South, and for which you are still nursing your wounds and injuries today, and you are the chairman, campaign council of an election, a very important election, to this, your political party, that irreconcilable differences is still lingering on. And it's even worse still now. And you are pretending that it will not affect your party. The truth is that, let's face it, it's gone from worse, bad to worse. At the end of the day, you know, it was an agreement. Let me tell you, it is a journey. There is nothing wrong, you know, for those that are wrong to ask that there should be some right made to them. You know, we know, for real and for evidence and for fact, that Godwin Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, was given the ticket. And Matthew Udoekeme, who just spoke now, was also a member of the All Progressives Congress. Okay? He left with Godwin Obaseki from APC to the PDP. And I'm hearing like, how will they trust this legacy group, the PDP, his own party members who are leaving now, resigning from the party, haven't failed to reconcile the differences? They are now probably looking at another political party, or they have the right to make that decision. And he is saying that nobody will trust them. You see, for us in APC, we will be very glad if they come and work with us. And the reason is clear. Now, we were victim of Godwin Obaseki high-handedness, disloyalty, and betrayal. And we thought that having done same to PDP, to APC, for which case the 14 House of Assembly members were excluded from inauguration. You know the story. Until today, that section lapsed, and we never had the opportunity to speak for our people or represent our people. It has never happened before anywhere in the world, not even during the military juntas. But it happened in Edo, no thanks to Godwin Obaseki and his cohorts. Today, he moved from APC. He went to PDP. When we drove him out of APC, because of this same character of divisiveness, he found shelter in PDP. I would have thought, reasonably so, that if you did something and people began to call you an ingrate, you know, all you needed to do in another platform was to display or demonstrate, fight to do it, that it is not in your nature, meaning you push the ball to the APC court, that it was rather the APC who gave you that name and that name wasn't yours. But what did he do? He applied that trait, did even worse to PDP than he did to APC. Who are the people he's calling that these people are leaving? They don't have electoral value. The same people who gave him umbrella and gave him shelter when he was driven out from the APC. He has done worse things to them. Now, everybody, what were they asking for? They said, if you are coming to our party as a governor, give us the ticket of the deputy governor. He didn't. Now, having won the election, give us the position of the SSG. He didn't. Okay, give us the chief of staff. He didn't. And at the end of the day, he took everything. Okay, they still managed to be working with him because all that he gave it to, and those that are still there today, are those who followed him from APC to the PDP. And the question is, what was in a merger of a sort, or in an agreement to work together of a sort? What was the benefit of those? As at today, nothing. Then they left there. There was a contestation to go to the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, one of which he also contested and he lost. Okay, then at the end of the day, what was given to this same legacy group? The original owners, the aborigines of PDP. Again, nothing. 24 seats of the House of Assembly, nothing. The senatorial seat, nothing. I mean, then that, as if that was not enough, that angered them further, infuriated them. And at the end of the day, they went to court, and the court made a pronouncement, and the election happened, and he lost. Anyways, that was the outcome of. Now, as if that was not enough, a third phase, again, which was the local government election, which again was in shambles, which rather than selection, they went ahead. Another 18 seats of the local government, the vice chairman, the secretaries to local government, the councillors, the 192 ward councillors are not as it were. Again, nothing for the legacy group, the owners and of the party. If you were the one, what would you do? I think what happened was that they just went to their party, used government powers to chase them away, and took over their party. That is like speculation, and that is like land grabbing, and it doesn't make sense. And they are saying, when there's a wrong, there must be remedy. And when those remedies are to be followed and it is not quick in coming, they can take, they can take the whatever position that will help them to fight for justice. And I think there's nothing wrong about that. That's what they are doing. And to also say that they are harvesting people from the APC, it is better for us to tell ourselves the truth.
Listening to a lot of things that he has said and other members of the PDP who've been on this program, you get the feeling that everything is fine. You know, come September, we have our candidates, the elections are going to go on. All these are distractions that we're having to deal with, and we will overcome them. What do you think is going to happen when the elections actually happen?
It's okay to hope. It's okay to hope. It's okay to hide your sicknesses and diseases.
You think they're hiding their sicknesses and diseases? What if they're correct? What if these are just distractions, fifth columnists, people trying to, disintegrate the party, trying one plan or the other?
As I said, as a member of the fourth estate of the realm, investigative journalism is part of your training. Looking at the person you were seeing, he's a fine gentleman, okay? But you could see there was contrast between his face and the content of the heart. I know him very well. You need to see him in the brightest.
We're not in a position to be able to make those kind of judgments. How can you tell that his face and what he's saying are not the same thing? You can't make that judgment.
Let me tell you something. I've been in this struggle for 8 years. I was there when Godwin Obaseki came. We sponsored him. When he dealt with us as members of the House of Assembly who never had the opportunity to be inaugurated, no thanks to him, I was there. I am still there. I also participated in the process to contest to become governor. Thank God one of us is there. He got the ticket now. But you see, parties will always have reasons to disagree. It's normal. But what is important is how you deal with these disagreements. A little this way and a little this way. There's something wrong if persons
So what kind of concessions should the PDP be making? Because these internal conflicts exist and we're seeing it play out.
For me, if what they wanted was to have a taste, for instance, again, what they just did now, Aswan Godalo was, I can't say because I'm not a member of the party, but what is out there is that he was never a member of the party. And in any case, we are from Edo State, we know ourselves. Now, as of today, who is the candidate of the party?
They say Aswe.
They say Aswe Godalo. Who is Aswe Godalo? He was never a member of the PDP we are talking about.
They voted him in the primaries. Sir.
I'm going there.
They voted him in the primaries.
I'm coming. You need to get this background. What are the issues? They are saying Aswe Godalo, beforehand, 2 years before now, was already penciled to be the flag bearer of PDP. And they are saying, you didn't give us a fair chance, the governor, to contest. And you know his deputy governor, the then deputy governor, Elishabu, he has his case in court and all of that. Now, that man was contesting. He dealt with him and frustrated him out of the race. So with Ojezwa, Aslam Ojezwa, Barrister Aslam Ojezwa was actually the then APC chairman who left that position, left with him to the PDP, and became a floor member, giving him support. He was also interested in contesting that election to get the ticket of the PDP. Okay? Given that they fought together and they made huge sacrifice for him. What happened? Again, he was frustrated. A lot of them. Now, the question is that who is also the deputy governor, the candidate today? The deputy governorship candidate for the same PDP is one of those who followed him from APC, okay, to PDP, who is incidentally also emerged as the SSG, who they also didn't want when they were talking about this sharing. So it's a case of injustice meted on the original owners of the home. That is it.
Let's get Ayo to weigh in on this. Ayo.
Thank you, Kayla. Mr. Osifo, all I've heard from you and Mr. Ijori is about the party, the interests of certain political party members, and not the interest of the people. And that's a little troubling. Generally, I mean, it's only natural for any political party to say the struggle we're having is in the interest of the people. You will say the same thing as the other fellow will say. But all we hear is what the party members, what this party or what that party wants to do. How do these issues that we are discussing, how do they affect the lives of the people of Edo State who will get a governor by November?
Well, I didn't hear what you mentioned from the beginning, but I'm sure you're talking about Edo people as the centerpiece of Edo politics and whatever is happening there right now. Yeah, governance, you can't, as an individual, you can't assume the role of leading the people without coming through political parties. And it is trite, even in law, that the foundation for contesting these positions, political positions, are settled in black and white in either in laws, guidelines, or rules, right, as it were, whether of INEC or the Electoral Act or the parties themselves. Now, what do people want? They're looking at everybody. You could be the best, but at the end of the day, you have a duty to follow the law. For instance, parties who cannot respect their internal rules and guidelines, how much can they really offer the people? When you have mastered the arts of navigating your route through shortcuts to get to your destination, believing that what is important is ultimately you getting there, not how you get there, you miss it. You cannot really do for the people, provide for the people, because you won't be representing the law. If you have mastered the art of shortcomings, I guess you will also bring that in governance when you get there. And what is happening now, I also heard him when he was saying, attempting to be blaming the woes of PDP on other political parties and talking about the All Progressives Congress and even praising the president to high heavens. Yes, the president is a Democrat. You can't take that away from him. But the truth is that this same president, while as leader of the All Progressives Congress, intervened, and tried to push Godwin Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, to inaugurate the 14 members. What did they do? These same progressives and Democrats you're talking about today told you that it was undemocratic not to inaugurate 14, representing 14 constituencies, 14 members representing 14 constituencies of the state out of 24. What did he do? He said, bullshit. And he responded by saying, Edo not be Lagos. Meanwhile, the section 91 of the Constitution says a house shall not be called a house, if it is less than 24 and not more than 40. And what happened in Edo? They had 9. They ran that house for 4 years with 9. That is still something that is on their neck today, and Edo people are watching, and Edo will respond appropriately. Now, when you talk about whether Edo is suffering, why will Edo not suffer? Go to Edo as it is today. In the areas of development, when there's flood, Edo is under. We did all this to deceive. We have done the water storm master project to take water away from the concentration of pools in Edo when it rains. But 8 years after, go to Edo, when it rains, Edo is threatening to be submerged. All they needed to do was just to deceit. Nobody is deceiving.
Yeah.
In the education system is grounded.
The conversation is endless. All the issues that you're raising, they're definitely endless, but in another 10, 15, 20 years from now, the people who are in government in Edo State today may not be there. A good number of them may have moved on to other things or even outgrown the ages through which they can, contest elections at whatever level. So it will be that of the young people. Now, I'm just wondering how this entire process, BDP today, APC tomorrow, Labour Party another time, is mentoring or leading to any form of significant transfer to people. What are the young people learning? How to do or how to not do? How are we preparing through the kind of issues that we're having in Edo State or any other state at that today? How are we preparing the young generation, a younger generation of Nigerians, for political office, for political contestations, as you said, according to the law. If this is the kind of things we show them every single day.
Well, you know, it's quite unfortunate. The rules are laid down, like I said earlier on. If you follow the law, you know, as it were, it will lead to a situation where there will be justice, there will be equity, there will be fair play, and the society will be better. That would be the best way for the learners to learn, and also when it gets to their time, they will also do well. But I think I want to recommend that it is better to stick with the provisions of the law. For instance, the quagmire which they led themselves into today, you know, arose from a situation where, because I also listened to him when he was saying what he was saying, that the lawyers are dealing with it. Okay, it's fine to say that, you know, but as chairman of the campaign council, he ought to know where the problems really lies. I think from facts and evidence, on the 4th of February, you know, the party released its guidelines. When I talk about the party, I'm talking about the PDP. You know, pursuant to the electoral act for the purposes of selecting organizing primaries, which will lead to the emergence of a candidate. You know, for the PDP, what they did was that election was done. The Congress was done, and 381 persons, representing 127 wards and 12 local government of Edo State, you know, challenged the outcome of that congresses, not the primaries, and they challenged it under Section 82 of the Electoral Act. Okay, now they went to court. Now, when they went to court, what they were asking for, that their rights, you haven't won that election, the Congress, their right has been breached, because when the final result was released, contrary to what was signed, you know, by members of the electoral committee set up or approved and set up and approved by the PDP, which in that case is the second defendant, you know, there was no contrary opinion as to whether those who signed those results that you know, suggested that these 381 delegates, yes, one ad hoc delegate won. There was no contrary opinion to it. However, they went to court that you cannot purport to exclude us, having so won, in the delegate to be delegates in the selection process of who will emerge as the candidate. And the court, in its wisdom, so seeing that there was merit in the case, asked that they should show cause. The PDP should come and show cause why they should not.
Well, here we've heard all of this.
Yes.
In fact, we had the lawyer of the PDP here as well not too long ago. They said this doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They said it doesn't matter.
Why are they? Okay, what are they doing?
They're just going to appeal it. They said
what are they appealing then?
They said it doesn't matter, but they're going to appeal it.
You see, let me tell you something. And I can tell you, if they continue on the line of argument, they will fail. It will produce the same result, and I'll tell you. Because the judge, the learned judge, in his wisdom, made a fine distinction between provisions of Section 82, under which the originated summons, or that case, the plaintiff came, and Section 84, which the defendants are relying on, that to call it, to reduce it to just a matter of internal affairs. And the justice, the learned justice said, this is not a matter of primaries. It is a matter of pre-primaries for those who contested as delegates who were eliminated from the process, and they have a right, haven't been breached, they have to come to court to ask under Section 82.
Well, definitely, this is a conversation that is going to continue for quite a while. We're going to be watching all of this unfold. But I want to thank you so much, Mr. Washington Osifo, for being with us on the program, and good luck with everything you have to do.
Thank you.
Ahead of you.
Thank you so much.
Business Morning is up next. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much, Kayla. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, where we do just about 30 minutes of business before we'll hand you back to Kayla and Ayo to continue on the Sunrise Daily studio. We start as usual from the global space, where oil prices gained on Thursday as crude stocks fell after United States refineries ramped up processing and as gasoline inventories eased, signaling stronger demand. Take a look at the numbers here. It's a very different, well, not very different, but a sharp movement we've seen compared to what we had this time yesterday. Yes, it went up 0.73%. That's for Brent, $85.70 a barrel. And also WTI went up same proportion, $82.70. And this is because of U.S. crude inventories. It fell 3.4 million barrels to 445.1 million barrels in the week ended July 5, and the analysts had expected, it's more than what they had expected. They expected about 1.3 million barrels. So look at what this has done, expectation against reality. Gasoline stocks also fell by 2 million barrels to 229.7 million barrels. That's much bigger than the 600,000 barrels draw that analysts had expected during that July holiday week in the United States. Now, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries also stuck to its forecast for relatively stronger growth in global oil demand this year, 2024, and next year, 2025, saying that resilient economic growth and air travel would support fuel use in the summer months. And talking about OPEC now, their monthly oil market report for Nigeria shows an increase in our production, 1.27. There you have it. Nigeria's average daily crude oil production increased to 1.27 million barrels. Don't you just wish it was 2 points? But we had expected about 1.4, as promised by Mr. Emilia Kieri of the NNPCL. I guess we still have to wait for those days, especially now that our crude is being squeezed. Remember that story about NNPCL, a new loan of about $2 billion? Well, they said it's not been officially announced yet. Well, I guess we just keep our fingers crossed for that official announcement. But so far, it does look like our supply of crude is getting really squeezed with the loan, crude-backed loans, which is becoming even more rampant in the country. Now we look at the Naira now, see how it's doing. There was an intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the FX market yesterday. In spite of that, we did see a drop in the value of the Naira. It opened at 1,532 Naira, 58 kobo, but closed at 1,561 Naira, 98 kobo. That's almost 2% drop. Very heartbreaking there. Meanwhile, NAFEX, very marginal right there. But we know this is the real number, 1,561 Naira, 98 kobo. And I did hear that in the parallel market, it dropped even further. Even the pound now is about 2,000 Naira. So, and I just wonder why, in spite of the CBN's intervention, perhaps we'll feel the impact of that today. So we'll be looking at the close of the Naira today at the market. Now, one of the most interesting things going on in Nigeria now is ahead of the recapitalization of banks in the country. So we've seen that the capital market has been really busy. Access Holdings, Access Bank, is one of those really busy. Shareholders of the Holdings PLC have expressed confidence in the company's growth strategy, and they pledged their support as the group begins to raise $351 billion through rights issue from existing shareholders on the Nigerian Exchange Limited. As the NGX, Access Holding rights issue is offering 17.77 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each to 19 Naira 75 kobo for a share.
Existing shareholders.
The management and board of Access Holdings PLC are seated here with the group's shareholders, stockbrokers, and investors at the Nigerian Exchange Building in Lagos. The group is undertaking a capital raising initiative of 351 billion naira through a rights issue to existing shareholders. Under this rights issue, 17.772 billion ordinary shares will be offered at 19 Naira 75 kobo per share.
Share what today has evolved to be the corporate philosophy.
In his presentation, the bank's managing director, Roosevelt Ogbonna, says the bank has the track record and now seeking to become the world's first truly African global bank.
We are the largest lender in the market, largest deposit taker. And I think the conversation would have been a bit narrow if it was just in Nigeria. Across the 14 markets we operate in the continent, we're top 5 in 10 of them. In the other 4 or 5, ex-South Africa, by 2027 will be a top 5 bank. So in some sense, we're not local champions. We're the 3rd largest bank in Zambia. Fact.
And the next phase of the bank's growth trajectory is captured in these key metrics. The bank hopes to scale up the total number of its customers to 125 million and increase the total number of its monthly active platform users to 42 million. The group's chairman tells the story behind the numbers.
If I was given the opportunity to theme our capital market raising exercises, you know what I'll call it? I'll call them promises kept. Herbert in 2018 announced that in 5 years' time, it will be top 1. And by 2022, so it was. Promises kept.
The shareholders also have words of confidence to back the exercise.
I have confidence. This right issue of 19 naira 75 kobo is like bonus prize to us. It's part of capital appreciation by God willing. What we will just do now, we can be patient.
The management and the board of the group further reiterate their commitment to the shareholders.
We have listened to our shareholders very clearly, and we know what they are expecting from us, into the coming years. And so that's what we're going to be focused on, and that's what we're going to be executing seamlessly, going into the future.
We are now going into consolidation phase, a time when, based on the astute investments that have been made, over successive management teams, we are now about to reap the dividends of those investments. So this is the time for shareholders to really reap the rewards of their loyalty to Access Bank.
As the bank consolidates for the future, the group set to continue to position strategically by facilitating and enhancing cross-border trade across the globe.
It's still on the floor of the NGX, where the Minister of Environment, Mr. Balarabe Abbas Lawa, rang the closing gong at the close of Wednesday's trade on that floor. The event was also the opportunity to unveil its Impact Board, a dedicated platform for listing sustainability instruments. It was the commemoration of the 8th Green Bond Advisory Group meeting, following the approval from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Apart from Mr. Lawal, who is the co-chair of the Green Board Advisory Group meeting, there were other attendees, Dr. Emomotimi Agama, Director General of the SEC, alongside delegates from the Debt Management Office, the Ministry of Environment, issuers, and issuing houses.
Climate change is real. And it's not just happening in other markets or in other territories or in other countries, it's also happening in Nigeria. The need for us to begin to look at how to, keep the sustainability of this environment on the pinpoint. The government of Nigeria has always established a Ministry of Environment. And as we begin to look at renewable energy and other things that would help shape a better climate, even as we see the issues of flooding in Lagos and in other parts of the country, funding that particular initiative is very important. And the NGX, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Environment, is working together with issuers to see how they can raise capital in the form of sovereign green bonds to finance some of those initiatives that the Federal Ministry of Environment is trying to pursue, in line with, I think, the current government's agenda of sustainability. So essentially, I believe there were meetings today with the NGX, the Ministry of Federal Ministry of Environment, the SEC, a few stakeholders in terms of possible issuers and advisors. And of course, that led to the closing of the market by the oil minister.
So there you have it. The floor is now open also for a green investment. So you can actually invest in projects, initiatives that are green, that would lead that are sustainable and will lead to better climate for the country and the environment. Now, the United States, well, not in the green this time, but giving power. I'm sure you saw that report yesterday where there was that MOU that was signed between the United States and Nigeria. They're backing the federal government's reform for the power sector with 115 billion naira support. And so far, they've done some achievement. They call it the Power Africa program. So far, they have about 200 million people across the continent. They've helped them to get access to electricity. They have partners from the private sector, 5 million connections, which represents an upward of 20+ million people just over the last 5 years. And they also have the target of doubling access to electricity by 2030 in the country. Well, we'll talk about more of this and how they hope to achieve it this morning with Mr. Richard Nelson. Mr. Richard Nelson is right here in the studio. He's the coordinator of the United States government's Power Africa program. Mr. Nelson, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Yini. I'm happy to be here.
Great. So is this your first time in Nigeria?
It actually is my first time, yes.
So would you compare your reality in Nigeria and what you've been hearing? I know you've been just around the island and all of that, but let's hear what you have seen or felt in the country. You said you've been here for about 4 days, I believe that's what you said.
4 days. Mm-hmm. I've been in Abuja until this morning. And we've been out to see a health facility that's been electrified. We've seen a transmission center that was upgraded. We've talked to many of the government agencies involved in power and the private sector as well. So it's been a busy 4 days, and it's given me a good perspective on what's happening here. Yeah, but you haven't
seen outside work, have you?
No. No.
Sadly, I hope
no free time.
I hope you do before you leave.
That would be nice, yes.
All right, so we saw that you had that MOU signed yesterday with the Nigerian government, the Power Africa. And, power obviously is a big deal for any economy that wants to develop, but it's been a big challenge for the continent. But I'll stick with Nigeria at this time. Businesses are suffering, the cost of energy is increasing, and then you now come and you say you're working with the private sector and the government. Mm-hmm. Help us to explain how you hope to implement this Power Africa program.
Great. And let me just explain a little bit about Power Africa. Power Africa is the U.S. government's initiative, as you said, to double access to electricity on the continent. And we work through partners, through private sector partners, through other development partners, and through U.S. government agencies. And so what's happening in Nigeria is many of these partners are doing work to support the power sector, whether it's in generation, distribution, transmission, all of the above. And we've been working here for the last 14 years. I should say 11 years. And this MOU is in relation to a particular project that we have that is focused on providing a lot of almost like consultancy support to the government, to the private sector, to help unlock some of these problems. And so we have advisors that are helping various agencies within the government. They're helping the private sector, the discos, to kind of navigate many of these problems. And so we're renewing that effort for the next 5 years, and that'll be an important part of our work here.
Mm. So we have a new amended electricity bill, that now allows for independent power producers and suppliers, also allows the state government to be more active. Does that fit into your vision, or how does that fit into your plan?
Yes, it absolutely does. Our plan incorporates that in terms of working with the state governments and helping them think through that process and what might be possible for them so that they really understand what they're getting into. This is a very complex business, and it's not as easy as many may think. And so we'll have people that will be working with them to help understand what these issues are. The other thing that we'll be focusing on is really the main challenge in Nigeria, which is basically the distribution system. It's the ability to transfer power to consumers, and then for consumers to pay for that power to be able to cover the costs of that electricity all the way back up the chain. And right now there's about 40% of the power that's lost in terms of what's transmitted or what's generated and then what's paid for. And no business can operate with 40% losses right off the top. So that's going to be a major part of what we're working on over the next few years to see if we can figure out how to support the government in solving that problem.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, and I guess it's also important to know that it's not just the government. Yesterday, incidentally, we had an independent power supplier standing right where you were, and he was also sharing some of the plans and hopes and prospects and all of that. And of course, you've talked about getting consumers to pay. That is a challenge. Oil theft is a challenge. Infrastructure that seems to have been ignored for many, many years is the challenge. I see that you have about 115 billion naira set out for this. Could you share with us how you, because as you've said, it is complicated. We've been trying to solve this problem for many years. And how do you hope to connect these seemingly unconnected or unresolvable, issues so that we can really have a lighted Nigeria?
No, thank you for that question. The key is really strong regulatory environment that is enforced. If the regulatory environment is enforced and predictable, and people are willing to pay, and by the way, if more people are paying for their power, tariffs can be lower because it spreads it out across more people, right? And so those are critical factors that have to be addressed. And when that happens, you're going to have investors who are waiting in the sidelines right now, looking at Nigeria, very interested in investing in Nigeria, but are nervous about the power sector. And when they see that more consistent, they see reliable power, they're going to be investing in much larger amounts. And so that's part of the issue here, is to help establish those frameworks that can really be respected by everyone and enforceable. And so that's where we're going to be working. And again, it's a responsibility on the private sector, on consumers, but also on the government to ensure that all those policies are clear, they're set forth in a way that people understand them, and that really forms the basis for the system.
Yeah, so I hear you. Once we deal with the regulatory environment, we're sure to attract investment, into those infrastructure and all of that. I believe that's the core.
Yeah, and let me say that we've had a very, very close relationship with the Nigerian government, the different agencies involved in the power sector. Just in the meetings I've had this week, they've been very cooperative. We have just a really good working relationship. And so I really feel hopeful that we're going to be able to support the government in its objectives to really refine that, to build on that framework, to be able to do the work that needs to be done with the discos, with the states, with the whole system, to be able to make sure it works. The other piece that we haven't talked about, though, too, is the off-grid space. There are many people around Africa and even in Nigeria who maybe not in their lifetime will be within a short distance of the grid. So they're going to need access to off-grid resources to be able to run their businesses and supply power to their homes. And so we are supporting companies in that space as well. We've been working with just under 200 of those to try and bring that type of power, really productive power, to people who will never be close to the grid.
Well, I guess we can be hopeful now,
right?
In Nigeria,
exactly.
But how does the renewable energy plan fit into this? Because we just had a report before you came on climate change and green bonds. How people should look the way of investing in green, sustainable infrastructure. And Nigeria does have a lot of sun. The independent power supplier we spoke to yesterday said they're using gas, which is rather expensive. But when you do solar, then the overhead cost, or the initial overhead cost, is very expensive. So what's this program doing in the area of green energy?
That's a good question. So Power Africa, as an initiative, is what we call an all-of-the-above initiative. So we'll support power generation from any source. because we're really after access to electricity, to reliable, affordable electricity. Because of all the innovations in the clean energy sector, you're seeing the prices go down dramatically in solar, wind, and other sources. And so right now, for a small business, for even some large businesses, if they want to have their own power supply, sometimes the solar system they can purchase might actually supply power for cheaper prices. Now, in some cases, when you have a small scale, like a mini grid somewhere, the prices that people will pay there might actually be a little bit higher than what they would on the grid, just because of the economies of scale. So it can really depend on the actual situation and the market. But I can tell you this, that the renewable energy wave is exploding around the world. And I think the whole world is on a transition. And countries like yours, like the United States, with a gas supply, we're going to continue to use that to generate power and to use it for other sources. But there's a lot of momentum toward renewables, and that will continue for sure.
All right, so I mean, this sounds exciting, but I'm just curious, what does the United States get out of powering Africa?
That's a great question. It's really at the core of why we're here. The U.S. government really has a really high priority placed on Africa, on strengthening those relationships between African countries and the United States for economic reasons, for security reasons, for diplomatic reasons, many, many reasons why the United States wants to be a close friend to countries in Africa. And so we're engaging with African countries in a lot of different ways. And this particular initiative, Power, is a very, very critical piece of that because it is so necessary. In fact, I was at an event in Dallas, the U.S.-Africa Business Summit, about 2 months ago, and I met several heads of state from Africa at that event, along with a number of interagency colleagues that were with me. And Power was at the very top of their list, every single one of them. And it is clearly a concern across the continent. It's something that we feel like with our partnership approach, we can help to mobilize resources and mobilize support for that. And honestly, economic growth cannot happen without power. I think we know that, right?
Very
and
true.
so we feel like this is the fundamental way that we can interject the resources that we have to be able to support African countries in the growth that they want to achieve.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Richard Nelson, coordinator of the United States government's Power Africa program. We do wish have fun in Nigeria, but also we do wish to see the results of this, this program. We're really eager for that.
Thank you. So do I. Thank you.
All right, now we'll continue with the program in a bit after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. Still Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We head straight to the commodity space. And we're worried about the Naira, that in spite of that intervention from the central bank yesterday, we still saw that huge depreciation on the currency. And discussing this is research manager with financial derivatives company, Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo. Dr. Nwokolo, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great. So we had intervention yesterday, and yet we still had the Naira depreciating. Is there something we're missing?
From what we are seeing, you are quite correct. What we are seeing, we saw that Naira keeps depreciating and is a major concern. Because if we say we want to do a reform, the depreciation of Naira, the valuation of Naira is a major concern that is going to affect this particular plan. We see that Naira has continued to decline, even though we are having the reserve, increase in reserve of about $2.2 billion. So it simply means that the increase in the reserve we have is not strengthening the Naira yet. We are not seeing it transit into the strengthening of Naira. And the question becomes, what is really the issue? And the major concern is that there is high demand of dollar. You see, the demand of dollar is outspacing the supply of dollar. At this point in time, you see a lot of importation because Nigeria is an import-based country. So there's a lot of pressure on Naira, and this is the time importers import goods as against December. This is the time of importation. So a lot of people are starting for dollar. Also, let's not forget that a lot of Nigerians have lost confidence in the value of Naira. And a lot of people are beginning to look for an alternative currency to keep their money, which is dollar. So you see, this is what is causing this depreciation in the value of Naira. And if this happens, even though there's going to be removal of taxes and duties on staple food, that is one. The Naira devaluation is another point. When you remove taxes and levies from importation, what happens to the dollar rate? So the dollar rate is still going to filter into whatever commodity that is brought in, and we begin to see that it will seem as if nothing is done. We may not really see changes in terms of reduction in prices if the value of Naira is not appreciating.
So, do you think that now, I know this is for June, our oil production that's increased by 1.6%, even though we are still not, we're still far from the 1.5, which is our target and all of that. But at least we had 1.276 yesterday. That was released by OPEC. That's our oil production. Do you think this could help?
Yeah, in a way, it could help. You just saw a 1 point. It's just a minimal increase, 0.14% increase. So it's going to help in the sense that our major importation earnings is from crude oil. So when we do this, we are going to see it's going to be a plus for us in terms of our reserve and in terms of FX into the economy. It's going to go a long way as well. But even at that, we have not been able to meet our target of 1.5 in OPEC. So let's not begin to rejoice over it. It's little or nothing. It's going to do little or nothing to the FX market. So there's need for more production. That we boost our FX.
Okay, so I guess if you can tell, have you heard anything about the petrol queues? How is it in your area? Is it official? Are we going to get PMS price increase? I know they had hinted that prices at the depot prices are increasing and all.
Yeah, that is what we are seeing. Petrol queue all over the place. And this has become a long-standing issue in Nigeria and had become a reoccurrence. You begin to see that petrol prices are going for almost 800 naira per liter. And it's important to note that when prices of fundamental commodities like petroleum increase, you are going to begin to see it will create a cycle of rising costs and inflation. And this will have a ripple effect.
All right.
Effect in the sense that it's going to begin to affect transportation costs, cost of production, which will filter into the prices of commodity and become inflationary and
all right, Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo, Research Manager at Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's time to head back to the Sunrise Daily studios, but I'll just tell you that yesterday the NGX was almost unchanged, but in the negative, lost about 2 billion naira, and the banks had a lot of profit taking yesterday. Well, not a lot, just 0.39%. Consumer goods was positive, industrial goods is recovered, even though it was marginal. Let's head back now. I'm sure Kayla and I, you are waiting. They have a lot of conversation waiting for you. We'll do it again tomorrow.
And national orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris leads his counterpart in the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Atiku Bagudu, to this press conference to address a burning issue. Nigeria's signing of the Samoa Agreement is the focus of the briefing, following reactions that have been generated since the federal government signed a deal on June 28, 2024.
We'll also continue to guarantee citizens' rights.
The government received criticisms, especially from religious leaders, for signing the deal, which is reported to contain clauses that compel members to support the agitations by the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, also known as LGBTQ, for recognition as a condition for getting financial and other support from advanced societies.
By falsely accusing the government of signing a deal to promote LGBTQ. We found that despicable and wicked because the allegation is nowhere in the document signed on behalf of the federal government. Surprisingly, the paper put forward no evidence nor provide the agreement allegedly signed to prove their point. The baseless and sensational story unfortunately formed a basis for Utba, that means Friday sermons, by some of our respected imams around the country who were misled by the story, thereby raising tempers around the country.
The Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning oversees the implementation of economic agreements, and the minister explains how the agreements will be beneficial to the country.
The Post-Cotonou Agreement or the Partnership Agreement is a vital legal framework for cooperation between the OACPS and the European Union, with the aim of promoting sustainable development, fighting climate change and its effect, generating investment opportunities, and fostering collaboration among OACPS member states at the international stage.
The federal government further clarifies that Nigeria is not negotiating for, nor has it received any loan to the tune of $150 million from the agreement.
All right, so that will be the crux of our conversation, but we do have some breaking news for you right now. Remember, we told you earlier that there is this case in Supreme Court, and we're waiting for the ruling from the Supreme Court. Well, that ruling has been made, and we're hearing now that it is unconstitutional, according to the Supreme Court. It is unconstitutional for state governors to hold on to funds meant for local governments. So we're seeing that right now breaking from the Supreme Court right here in Abuja, local government financial autonomy. The lead judgment is being read by Justice Emmanuel Agim, and he is finding, and I'll say it again, that it is unconstitutional for state governors to hold on to funds meant for local governments, and that the refusal has gone on for over 2 decades, adding that it is the local government council that should manage their funds. That's the lead story right now. This is going to change every conversation. I think I want to start with that before we move on to the Samoa agreements. We have with us former presidential aide, Mr. Laulu Akonde, with you, and host of Inside Sources. Good to have you here with us.
Good morning, Kayla. Good to see you again.
So let's talk a bit about this. Let's start from here before we get to Samoa.
Exciting news.
So because we have been talking about local government autonomy, it's been a very big issue. blamed for everything, the economic downturn, insecurity. Now the Supreme Court has done this. So what next?
So I think it's a big flip, and it's exciting that the Supreme Court has acted on the side of common sense and on the side of reason. We hope that first of all we should get more details of this thing. But we hope that this will be compelling enough for us to begin to see some changes. Certainly there are governors who are not affected, but for the most part, we have suffered as a people by the fact that local government administration in our country has virtually disappeared. We hope that this is going to be a turning point.
A ruling from the Supreme Court means they can be compelled.
Absolutely.
That's the best part of this.
Absolutely,
story.
yeah.
They can now be compelled.
I just meant that, yes, we need more details because you know how it is that people will now begin to spin things back and forth.
No.
But I think you're right.
Yes. You can now be compelled to do the right thing. And local government administration is one that has suffered.
Basically disappeared. Yeah, for most of the states that we have. So this is very, very fulfilling and it's exciting.
Let's see how the state governors will react. For the state governors, and who we know over the years have not been in support of this local government autonomy. Not all of them. Many people have.
Of course. Some
but
of them
there are those that are notorious for it.
Yeah, clearly.
How do you think they're going to take this?
Well, just like you said, this is the law, and this is the highest court in the land saying that they have to do things properly by the Constitution and properly in a way that helps us as a people to deliver what government ought to deliver for the people.
So, like I like to say,
it's good.
The law may not change the heart, but it will tame the heartless.
Absolutely.
It will tame the heartless.
Absolutely.
Let's go on to the Samoa agreement.
Yes.
This up and down about this agreement. Let me start from this treaty that we've entered into.
Right.
What was it supposed to give us as a country, first of all?
Okay, well, so now the treaty itself is meant to be something that the European Union, trying to get people in Africa, in the Caribbean, together in one place for them to give, quote unquote, some kind of aid, and as they say in the treaty, in the introduction, it's better for them to deal with the block, of Africans and Caribbeans in one place rather than have to do bilaterals with each of the countries, and of course, we know the sum of money that is involved. But
how much?
Well, about $50 million, I think.
What are we supposed to use the money for?
Well, I guess, so it's essentially for development purposes. And, I don't think there's going to be one specific theme for the money, but they're going to develop programs. But the more important point, Kayla, is that many of these promises are never kept. That's the first thing that, most of them are not kept. How many times have we had promises of aid from all these agencies that are basically what the young Nigerians we call audio promises? But, a lot. Secondly, we ourselves need to, start to get ourselves more informed about these things and not get excited. As we are speaking now, there are a lot of promises that have been made regarding climate change adaptations that have not been met. And that's just one example. There are tons of instances of many of these quote-unquote agreements that promises aid that don't really add up. Even when they give it, it doesn't significantly affect our development. What we know that we should be advocating for more is investment, doing business together, doing trade together. That is where we can really get the real significant point. But, we get ourselves excited, $150 million and all kinds of stuff. Who says that we are even going to get a dime, at the end of the day? Who says the money is going to be available based on the experiences that we have? But the more important thing, again, the second important thing for me is that this Samoa deal is just a distraction. It's a complete distraction. Why do I say that? So we are so worried about, the LGBTQ high, they are trying to sneak that into our system. The truth of the matter is that is already in our system. Just go to social media. That's all you need to do. Go to social media and see how openly, those who think that is their orientation, they are expressing themselves.
I told the lawmaker yesterday, if he was aware of this, You know what he said to us?
Yeah,
he's
not aware.
Yes.
You know,
he said he wasn't aware.
So we pretend as if we don't know these things. We pretend as if we haven't seen this thing, especially on social media. You know, even children of prominent people coming out in the open and say that this is my orientation. If we really want to, and of course our law is against it, but what have we done about it? We have not done anything really. And now somebody is saying that, oh, they put something in an agreement. You know, clearly it's not even in the agreement. Because if you read the agreement, it is very clear that it is not in the agreement. Let's
stay on that point.
Yes.
It's not in the agreement?
It's not in the agreement.
So those clauses in the agreement that actually talk about gender equality,
yes,
and talks about sexual freedoms and sexual rights.
Yes.
So for many people, and we've heard them talk even on this program, say basically, look, when we hear these words, these are pointers. So when they talk about reproductive rights, many people believe that you're talking about abortions.
Yes.
When we talk about equality among the genders,
right,
it used to mean that women and men would be at par, but now it means that there are other genders that have to be recognized as well.
In cultures,
and then when he talks about sexual freedoms, you know, for many people, they believe that this basically is talking about your sexual choices and the right for you to express those. Now, what the bone of contention is that these things are against our laws, our people, whatever the world may be thinking about these things, they're against the laws of Nigeria. Yeah. And the laws of Nigeria are made for Nigerians.
Right.
If they don't like it, don't force it on them. Now, those clauses inside the Samoa Agreement talk about these things and the fact that countries like Nigeria were against them.
Yeah.
But I think that part of the conversation is where things get a little lost in translation. So maybe you could help us break that down a little.
Yeah, so those clauses, you know, will always be interpreted as it is for everybody in the context of the culture of each country and the laws of each country. Let's even assume that those things are there, you know, and for some reason the federal government has signed it. It's of no effect until it is enacted, you know, because if it does affect our laws, if it runs against our laws, we have to, if we want to do it, we have to bring it into our laws, our legal system and enact it. That has not happened, and that is not going to happen. You know, so it's the reason why I said this is just all noise. It's a storm in a teacup. But more importantly, it's a complete distraction. There are more important things that we need to get excited about, that we are not, you know, we are losing focus on dealing with them. If we must call government out, let's call government out on corruption. If we must call government out, let's call them out on problems of governance, not about a Samoa deal that is not going to really hurt anything significant, if at all it is even going to, if you're going to get it, or something that is basically, you know, trying to call our attention to, you know, what is already going on. Look, LGBTQ, I don't know whether the Q is here, but LGBT, they are active in Nigeria.
QI and plus
exactly, they are active in Nigeria. Just go to social media, go to Instagram, it's all over there. What are we doing about it?
All right, well, we do have to manage our time probably because there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to this Samoa agreement. But listening to you, you're basically saying, look, this LGBTQI plus clause inside is not there. Just so we get that that's your thoughts.
Yeah, but one more thing. So we have two ministers, the information minister, the budget and planning minister, and then the NBA. President. Now, the NBA came out and said, look, when this thing was happening, the Minister of Budget and National Planning actually referred the document to us to review it. And we reviewed it, and we didn't see anything objectionable, especially regarding this fear about LGBTQ. So it's just, you know, complete distraction, killer.
Let's talk about the Onrosoye report, which is not a distraction.
Yeah.
Cutting down the cost of governance has always been a very important thing for all of us here in this country. But we're hearing about the creation of new ministries. The Onrosoye report was basically trying to reduce things. But we're seeing an increase in all of that. And what that does to proper coordination of government activities and the cost of governance. Let's talk a bit about this Onrosoye report. Is it something that can work, considering that our country is a lot different than it was at the time when Oronsoye wrote this report?
Yeah, well, you know, I believe February earlier this year, after a federal executive council meeting, you know, government spokespeople came out and said that the president and the council have brought back the Oronsoye report, and they indicated aspects of it that will be implemented, and then set up a committee headed by the Secretary of the Government of Federation and gave the committee 12 weeks, you know, to return and make a report on how the implementation will be done. So to that extent, number one, yes, you know, this government has made a commitment, a decision to implement portions of the Oronsoye report. And that is commendable, okay? Now, the other thing to say is that, so between February 26, which was the time when the Federal Executive Council made this announcement that, you know, the Tinubu administration will be implementing portions of the Oronsoye report, between that time and now is more than 12 weeks. That was February, the second month of the year. We're now in June, the 7th month of the year. 5 months. We have had no kind of communication from the chairman of the committee, and that is the Secretary of the Government of the Federation. That was the person that was put in charge. And the press release that was shared with the public said 12 weeks. Now, 12 weeks must have ended in March, April, and May. And so now we've had June, and we are in July. Mr. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, what is happening? Where is the report?
Let's get Ayo to weigh in on that as well.
Well, thank you, Kayla. It's probably actually quite a troubling thing. Perhaps, you know, Mr. Akonde, the issue here is whether or not people understand what the issues are. What do you think generally the people in position to do anything significant have a good enough understanding of what the issues are as far as this issue is concerned? I know it's something that was probably even played with in the government in which you served, but what exactly would you say is the bane of implementation of this Oronsoye report?
Well, thank you, Ayo. I think that what it is the test. What we are having, what is happening, is what I describe as the test of the strength or lack of it of the political will. That is what it would take, you know. And as a government, we are not able to muster the political will in the last 8 years, or since actually I think 2012, that the Oronsoye report was submitted. Okay. Now, but the Federal Executive Council under this administration came up and said, you know what, there are portions of these things that we are ready to implement now. So if that is not happening at the pace that we are told it will happen, like I said, February, they said it's going to be 12 weeks. That 12 weeks should have finished by May. Now we are 2 months away from that. We don't have any kind of update. So this is a test of the political will. And to your question, Hayo, it is the political will that drives a lot of these things. If the people that are at the top insist, and if they are properly supported by a diligent team, then they will be able to do this thing. Because look, the work of president, for instance, or the work in the presidency is Herculean. You know, so if we are depending only on just, for instance, Mr. President, you know, yeah, the buck stops at the table, and yes, he is going to be responsible when everything is done and said, you know, and it's over. They will be calling the name of the president, just like people are calling the name of Buhari now. Okay, so all of those are realities, but the president is always defined. The successes or the failures of a president or any leader for that matter, governors, even senators, is always defined by the people that are around him, the kind of diligence that they have, their willingness
to determine who should should, my apologies, I really wish there was a way to determine who and who should be around the president at any given point in time, but unfortunately, I don't even think that is possible. But still on that issue that, Kayla raised with you about the livestock ministry, you know that the Senate, has a bill banning open grazing on the one hand. On the other hand is the proposition of the creation of the livestock ministry. What sort of conflict do you see, arising from this proposition of the federal government?
Well, so what I have gathered, since I think 2 days ago when the president announced that a new Ministry of Livestock Development is going to be formed, is that essentially this is an attempt, to bring some kind of political solution to a recurring and rather, problematic situation about the clashes between farmers and herders. I think the herders in particular, and the related farming system, people in that subsector, they have a notion or a belief, as a matter of fact, that they have been shortchanged in the current Ministry of Agriculture. Their argument is that, look, there is not enough attention that is being paid to livestock issues. And that advocacy is coming from, groups like the MacBan, which is believed to be, the pressure group of the pastoralists, the nomadic pastoralists. So I think this is a concession from the government to say that, look, if this is going to give us peace in this country by creating, a ministry, and then we ensure that we have ranching, and do it properly and increase the productivity, then let's do it. And quite frankly,
the only question, my apologies. The only question that may also arise from there is the federal government doesn't have agricultural land. It has to talk to the states. Now, put that in the context of the Land Use Act. So it's part of the, do you see a conflict coming? Given that during the proposition, just a second, when you were in government, you were one of the people working with the vice president there to push the National Livestock Transformation Plan. I'm not sure whether the governors actually bought it at the time. And now this. What's the assurance that the governors are going to, buy it, so to speak?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. So the National Livestock Transformation Plan, which was approved in February, I believe, of 2019, or thereabouts, probably not February, sometimes in 2019, was actually conceived at the level of the National Economic Council. That was where the idea was conceived. And the idea was developed right there with the governors, sitting in subcommittees. Okay, one of the subcommittees, I think the main subcommittee was headed by then Governor Umahi of Ebonyi State. And what they did was to travel to all the frontline states where you were having a lot of the farmers and others clashes to engage the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, be they farmers, be they elders, traditional institutions, religious institutions, community groups, the government, the people. And that was how the National Livestock Transformation Plan was developed. So quite frankly, and as a matter of fact, Ayo, this was an idea from the governors. So the governors endorsed it. And yes, it was very clear, clearly stated that land belonged to the states. And that was why it was the governors that were driving it.
Yeah, so one then wonders how come it didn't really, take a life of its own. And now we're talking about the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. Anyway, well, Mr. Akonde, just to put this out, we're running out of time, I'm sure you understand. Well, Kayla already broke the news, but a few more information about it is the fact that the Supreme Court has directed that local government allocation should be paid directly to them. the Supreme Court, of course, the Justice Agim is the one that read this background, and it says it's unconstitutional that state governors hold onto funds meant for 774 local government councils. He said it's the local government councils that should manage their funds. He dismissed the preliminary objections of the defendants, the 36 AGs, stating that the AGF has the right to institute the suit and protect the Constitution. He also pointed out that the governor's retention of the monies meant for the local government truncates their activities. That suit, you remember, was filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, and he was requesting that the Apex Court authorize the direct transfer of funds from the Federation account to local government in accordance with the Constitution. That's the update, and a lot more of that is coming. I understand that there is still conversations, Kayla, around whether the local governments should be having their own elections by the INEC or by the state independent electoral commissions. More and more to come, right?
Exactly. But, you know, another thing that Justice Agima said is that implementation has to be immediate.
Yeah.
Which is where which is the key thing in this conversation.
And I think that besides saying that, you know, we have to be grateful because the Supreme Court has done the right thing, I think we have to also commend the Attorney General for the boldness to bring up
How does double digits affect your purchasing power? What about ballooning debts profile and scarce FX? How's that affecting your business?
The federal government is turning to the money market to fund these deficits. Are yields contracting or expanding? Is this a good buy for you?
Inflation drives MPC decisions and affects sentiment at the equities market. What is happening to your